from Al-Qaeda, which has long tried to stir unrest in that region. Nothing, for example, have we heard from Osama bin Laden. Why isn't Al-Qaeda saying more about rage and revolution in the Muslim world? Jamie Smith is a former CIA officer assigned to Middle Eastern and counterterrorism concerns. He is founder of SCG International. Jamie, good morning.
Morning, Chris.
I think a name a lot of people know is bin Laden's second in command, Ayman al-Zawahiri. He has been essentially trying to take down Egypt's government for decades now. Are you surprised that you haven't heard, for example, some of these ubiquitous audio messages? Why aren't we hearing from Al-Qaeda in the middle of all this?
Well, we have heard they had issued one written statement recently. I think it was just within the last 24 hours that basically said, look, you need to engage in violent jihad. And what we've seen, I think, the frequency of statements from Al-Qaeda in general has dropped off, but primarily because of the strikes, the predator strikes that have been hitting them so hard. Because if you're going to be way more interested in finding a hole to hide in than to speak to the media, if you've got a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb coming your way, it's a lot of people are suggesting that what happened in Egypt was a peaceful, nonviolent demonstration that led to a revolution in that country. And I'm going to take a position that is going to be unpopular, but that's not what took place in Egypt. And, Al-Qaeda is a violent organization that advocates violence to overthrow the regime. What happened in Egypt was a succession. The military used the demonstrators to push Mubarak out because this was a crisis that had started way before the 25th of January when the protests started. The military simply used the protesters to achieve their result of getting Mubarak out of power. And so, the fact that we've not heard from bin Laden, I don't really think it has anything to do with a difference in philosophy of violence versus nonviolence. I simply think it's because Al-Qaeda has been hammered so incredibly hard in the last 2 years in their area that they're more interested in staying alive than getting information out.
Which leads me, Jamie, to a question I have, because I was just handed a part of a statement. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is about to give a speech, and in part of it, she will say that military pressure escalating on Taliban is escalating on the Taliban to break with Al-Qaeda. What do you think about that?
Well, the operational work that's been done against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban has been two-pronged. One is to prevent them from being operationally capable of carrying out terrorist attacks, but the second has been to prevent them from getting their messages out. And I think what we're seeing is a success in that area because you're right, we've heard essentially nothing from them. And this is one of those instances where Al-Qaeda would want to get out in front of things like what we're seeing across the Middle East, because you're seeing in Egypt one thing, it's nonviolent for the most part. And then in the other areas of the Middle East, you're starting to see violence take place. That would be something Al-Qaeda would want to jump in with and say, look, we fostered this, we promoted this. I mean, as you pointed out, al-Zawahiri is from Egypt, yet we've heard essentially nothing from them. And it may be that it's difficult to get information out of the Pakistani northwestern frontier, but at the same time, they may also be taking a wait-and-see approach in order to just see where the wind blows on this thing, so that they can kind of come out later and look as though they prophesied that this was going to take place, kind of predicted the future. They do that a lot, where they take.
Jamie, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Jamie Smith. And I don't know if you saw this, but it was a pretty scary, certainly awkward moment on live television.